you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Living the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego, and welcome back to the Living the Dream podcast, where today we're going to cover the topic of training to help you reach for your health, fitness, and wellness goals, and in order for you to live your dream life. And if your neck is ever stiff, or your shoulders are just really tight, or maybe reaching overhead feels more like a challenge than it should, or if you just want to have strong upper body joints, then today's episode is exactly what you need. We're going to talk about shoulder health. We're going to talk about postural hygiene. And we're going to talk about upper body mobility and how all of these things matter more than you think. Let's get into it. Why does this matter? Shoulder pain is one of the most common complaints that I personally see as a coach. I see it in our group fitness classes on the daily. I see it in my personal training clients. I even see it in my own family and friends. It shows up when people are trying to lift weights, when they're trying to do things overhead and reach overhead in their daily life, when they're trying to sleep comfortably. I see it all the time. I wake up because I have shoulder pain. Or maybe just when I reach behind me to grab something out of the back seat, or when I try to put on a jacket. These simple, everyday lifestyle things that should be simple and easy, they affect people because of this shoulder deficiency. But the issue usually doesn't start at the shoulder. Mind blow, right? The pain and limitation that we feel is often the downstream effect of either poor posture and alignment, limited mobility, or even lack of stability. And we'll go over what that means. Think about it like this. Your shoulder is the most mobile joint in the body. But that freedom, it comes at a cost. It's also the most unstable joint. So if you don't have the mobility and strength to support that range of motion, then your body wants to protect. And what does your body and brain do when it's in protection mode? You're asking for pain or dysfunction or maybe even injury. And here's the real kicker. Shoulder problems don't just impact your workouts. They affect your sleep, they affect your posture, and over time, that can lead to some pretty severe issues. They affect your energy, and they affect your confidence. Shoulder issues can affect your ability to pick up your kids, throw a ball, or even reach for something up in a cabinet. That's a life quality issue, not just a fitness one. And our mission is to help you live long, fit, and pain-free. Shoulder health is a key pillar of that mission. Last week, I hosted a 60-minute shoulder mobility clinic at our studio in Del Mar, California, and it was packed. It was packed with members who were hungry to understand their bodies better. And it was one of the most engaging clinics that we've done. We broke it down into a few different parts. We broke it down into the education as to what might be going on, the issues of flexibility and mobility. We talked about what stability and strength is in the joint. And then we practiced a 5-minute daily routine that you can do every single day to help earn your way to a pain-free shoulder. So let's unpack a little bit of what we talked about in this clinic. The first part was education. Your shoulder is part of a really complex chain that includes your thoracic spine, which is the middle part of your spine. It includes your scapula, which are your shoulder blades. You have one on each side. It is included with your clavicle, which is this collarbone right here at the neck. And then your humerus, which is your upper arm bone, the bigger bone, the upper arm bone. Now, for pain-free and powerful shoulders, All of these things need to move together symbiotically. And that requires the ability for good thoracic spine extension, which is your mid-back, your middle of your spine, and the mobility and the ability to actually extend it backwards. So what is the position that we're in all the time? We are in a flexed forward position. We're rounded over our screens, devices. Check your posture right now. Are you rounded forward? Well, then your thoracic extension, your thoracic spine is in flexion, not extension. So in order for us to have a strong shoulder girdle, we need good thoracic extension, the ability to extend our back backwards. We need to be able to control our scapula, good shoulder blade control and stability, the ability to have those shoulder blades be stable when we need them to and move the correct way when we want them to. We need to be able to have healthy joint capsule mobility, meaning that our arm should be able to reach all the way overhead. It should be able to extend back behind us. It should be able to do a ton of different movements in a large range of motion. So we need to be able to have healthy joint mobility. And then we also need to have balanced strength from the rotator cuff muscles, the backside of your shoulder, and all of the supporting muscles of the shoulder. But here's the part that most people overlook. Your shoulder health is only as good as the posture that you live in every day. So if you're slouched at your desk, if you're rounding forward while texting, you're training your body into a dysfunctional movement pattern. Now, slouching and rounding forward is not bad. It's just a position that we're in all the time. How many hours out of the day are we in that position and not even noticing it? Over time, this can lead to tight pec muscles, so your chest muscles. It can lead to tight chest muscles, and then it can lead to weak mid-back and upper back muscles, lengthened and weak mid-upper back muscles. And that's going to be a painful opportunity when you try to reach your arm overhead when you're in that position. And I like to say this, posture is your starting position for strength. If you're starting from a compromised position, then everything that you build on top of that is unstable. So I see people all the time who come in with that rounded forward posture, and then they start to do these shoulder presses, and they start to do these shoulder raises and all these exercises from a non-optimal position. And you're just training a bad movement pattern. And you're doing this not knowing it, just because as you are in this position all the time, your body and your mind and your brain have now said that this is neutral. This is normal. This is the position that I feel like I'm in. When I think I'm in good posture, I'm actually rounded forward. So it's really important to be able to start to strengthen in the position that you need to be, meaning strengthening your back muscles to pull you back into position, and then really working on flexibility and mobility of the front side. So flexibility. In this clinic, we covered flexibility first. We were able to talk about how can we stretch some of those muscles that are tight and shortened in the front of our body. And exercises like chest stretches or even lat stretches, which your lat is that big muscle on the side of your back that helps you when you pull up, when you do a pull up, or if you're at a gym and you do a bar lat pull down. Being able to stretch those first is really important. We covered mobility because strength built on poor mobility is like putting a sports car engine into a rusted out car frame. We focused on a movement called the thoracic extension over a foam roller. So we put a foam roller across the mid-back. And then we practice laying over that foam roller and letting our spine extend backwards. If you have a physio ball, one of those big balls that you can inflate and you can sit on them as a desk chair, or you can use them as ab exercises. Well, if you have one of those physio balls, I have my dad do this all the time. He loves this move. He lays back on the ball. He opens up his arms so that his chest is stretching, his upper shoulders are stretching. It's a great way for you to have a support and be in an extended back position. There's also something called a sleeper stretch. for the shoulder, you might have to search this one on YouTube. You could search sleeper stretch for the shoulder and you'll find a ton of different videos for it. But it helps with the rotation of the shoulder inwards. It's called internal rotation. And then another one that a lot of people struggle with, which should be a very basic move, is called a wall angel. So if you can think of what a snow angel looks like, you're laying on the ground and you're doing a snow angel, you're taking your arms up overhead in this big circular fashion. Well, you can do that up against the wall. And if you search on YouTube, wall angel, you'll be able to see exactly the checkpoints that are required to do this. And a lot of people have a really, really hard time with this when it should be a very basic move. And it's just because they've lost the mobility of that joint and they need to be able to regain the ability to get into those positions before they start strengthening. Every exercise that we talked about came with one big reminder. Mobility is about control, not just the range of motion. Like if you want just range of motion, that's flexibility. You can passively get into a range of motion. However, being able to control that movement through its full range of motion, that is what mobility is called. We don't want you yanking your arms or forcing your arms or powerfully just throwing your limbs through ranges that you can't stabilize. We want active, usable mobility that translates into your real life. So I tell people, you should be able to stop this movement at any moment if you had to and be strong in that position. But the body, when the body lacks stability, when it lacks mobility, and when it lacks strength, it wants to kind of speed up through that part of the movement. So I'll see it all the time when I'm telling someone to do, let's say like a lunge, and they're weakest at the bottom. They'll kind of like bounce out of the bottom of the hole, or they'll not go quite as far. The body wants to do the most efficient and easy way to get into that movement. And when you can really slow it down and you can do like a 10-second rep, 5 seconds on the way down, 5 seconds on the way up, you can really illuminate some weak points in your mobility. Then we talked about stability, being stable, and having strength and being able to strengthen once you have your mobility. Mobility without strength is just a liability. That's why the next part of that clinic, it focused on stability drills and functional strength to the limbs of the upper body. We worked on wall slides with a resistance band. So once you got the wall slides down, you can add a resistance band to it. If you've ever gone to PT for your shoulders, they'll have you do banded external rotations where you hold your elbow at your side and you're opening up your arm and you're trying to work on the rotator cuff muscles of the back of the shoulder. We did things called a serratus wall press. You have a muscle that is attached to your rib cage. It kind of looks like feathers down the rib cage on people that are really, really lean. You can't see these on most people, but it's also called the boxer muscle because boxers have this. It's a muscle that really helps with punching, but it's also a supporter of the rib cage, and it helps to keep yourself in a good posture if you have a strong serratus. So if you YouTube serratus wall presses, you'll really find a lot of good exercises for this muscle. Stability of the shoulder is really important. And one exercise that helps is getting into a quadruped position. So like a tabletop position, your hands are under your shoulders and your knees are under your hips. And then lifting your knees off the ground. Now your shoulders are trying to hold your body up, and then doing shoulder taps. So you're removing a limb from the ground and you're requiring all of your weight to be stabilized on one shoulder. This is a great exercise. You can do this in a plank, but I find that the tabletop position really helps with shoulder stability. And then one of the OGs, the best things that you can do for your shoulder health that a lot of people neglect are dead hangs. And I did a whole episode on dead hangs and perfect hangs and things called scapular pull-ups. If you can just get yourself to hang on to a bar a few minutes of the day, do the best you can. Some people have a really hard time holding themselves up for even just 30 seconds, but do what you can and do it frequently throughout the day. I like having a pull-up bar in a doorway that you go through multiple times a day. And every time you pass through that doorway, just grab onto that bar, put some body weight on it, and dead hang. For those of you that are not even close to a place where you can hold yourself up, have something under your feet to where you have part of your weight being supported by your legs and a lot of it being supported by your arms, and just build your way up to where you can do body weight. All of these moves will help you with better control, to strengthen your weak links and to make your shoulders more resilient in everyday life and workouts. The goal isn't just to be pain-free, which is a great goal, but it's to build shoulders that are anti-fragile. We wrapped up the clinic with a simple, repeatable daily routine that you can do anywhere. And this routine was designed to be low impact, no equipment or minimal equipment if you have a band. And it helps with being effective for building better posture, mobility, and strength. So if you can figure out a way for you to stack just 5 minutes of work, especially if this is a problem that you deal with all the time, stack it with something that you already do. Maybe you wait for your coffee to brew in the morning, or maybe right before you shower at night, or maybe right after you finish your beginning of your workday and right before you go to lunch. You can start doing this 5-minute daily routine and you can fix your problem. I have a full recap email that I can send you if you want all of this in one place. It has links to exercises that we talked about. It has follow along videos that you can click and just follow along to, whether your goal is flexibility, mobility, or strength. It includes the clinic notes that I talked about, and it includes inspiring quotes that will help you get through this. I've put it in a simple PDF that you can get, and you can grab it. There's a link in the description of this episode. If you go to that shoulder mobility link, it's affordable, it's beautifully organized, and it's designed to be your perfect shoulder mobility playbook for life. No fluff, it just works. I'm telling you, I've seen so many real world examples of this. I mean, I trained a mom of 3 in her late 40s, and she told me that she hasn't been able to sleep comfortably on her side for years. Think about that. That is crazy. For years, she's struggled to be able to sleep because of shoulder pain. And after 3 days a week for a couple of weeks doing this 5-minute mobility routine, she said her shoulders feel freer than they have in decades. I had another personal training client that told me he hadn't been able to lift his arm over his head since retiring. And we worked on it. This took a while. He was in his late 80s, so it was, a long time since he's been that way. But with active stretching, it took weeks of active stretching. And then I did all these mobility moves with him, and we finally were able to start strengthening in an overhead position, which was incredible because he hadn't even been able to lift his arm on his own above his head. But now he's working on hanging from a pull-up bar with a little bit of assistance to recondition his overhead capacity and strength, which is incredible. It's never too late. If a late 80s person can do this, you can do this. I've trained weekend warriors who lift heavy and are always feeling shoulder pain because they want to lift heavy, but as soon as they get to a point, it's like, oh, well, my shoulders are my limiting factor and I feel so much pain. Well, the exercises and the mobility moves that we talked about in this clinic changed how he warms up and how he interacts with his daily routine. So throughout the day, when he feels his posture getting into a position that is not optimal, he's able to take a little quick work break, work on some banded exercises at his desk, and be able to get into a better position. And already after just a couple of months, reduced his chronic shoulder pain. The whole reason I'm telling you these stories is I want you to know that you're not broken. You've just never been taught how to move well. And once you learn how to move well and how to strengthen properly and how to get into positions throughout your day and counteract all of the rounded forward positions that we're in, everything changes. Your shoulders carry more than just weight in the gym. They carry your capacity to live, to move, and to play. Don't ignore this until it's too late. You don't need to be in pain. You don't need to feel limited. You just need the right tools and a little consistency. And that is what this Live in the Dream podcast is all about. It's actionable tools to help you move better, feel better, and live a longer, more vibrant life. So check out that link in the description of this episode and get that PDF. You can get those videos. You can follow along with those videos. And if you have any questions on anything that you see on that document, please let me know. And definitely go back and listen to the dead hang episode we did and the perfect hang episode and how to get strong, healthy shoulders. Like that will help as well. And if you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who's struggling with shoulder pain in your life. Leave a review if you're someone that went through the exercises and it helped you. It really does help other people realize that they don't have to live this way. They don't have to identify as someone who has shoulder pain, because as soon as you identify as someone that has something, that is who you become. So I hope that you comment. I hope that you tell people about what you see when it comes to doing these exercises and how it helps you. I promise you, if you are consistent and you do this frequently throughout your week, you will see results. And sometimes it's after the first session. Sometimes it's after the first week. You will feel better. You will feel freer. You will feel more mobile. You'll feel what it feels like to be in the right position, and you can reinforce that. What you practice gets reinforced, but if you don't use it, it's only going to get worse from here. You will lose it. You are the CEO of your own health, and you are in control. You got this. And that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me on this Training Tuesday episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Please share the knowledge that you gain with your friends and family and hold each other accountable. If this episode inspired you, share it with a friend who could benefit from having strong, stable, mobile shoulders. To support this podcast and help it grow, please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on and leave a review telling others how this podcast benefited you. Leave a comment on this episode letting us know how you're incorporating your mobility moves into your daily routine. And this is really a non-cost way to help get this important wellness content into more people's ears. Tag me at Living the Dream Podcast or at Coach Damien_SD and let us know how this episode benefited you. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what we got wrong. We want to know. Message us if you have any suggestions or tips that would help your Living the Dream team that we can discuss in future episodes. I will be right here with you working on making us stronger, happier, and healthier humans. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.